Today we have a refrigerator where the freezer is really cold, it's doing great, but the fresh food section above it is getting warmer and warmer. And this is a pretty common symptom for a refrigerator that's having trouble. It's pretty easy to fix. It's caused by too much ice that's built up in the freezer for some reason, and it's blocking the cold air from being able to get through and reach the fresh food section. And again, pretty common problem. We'll cover some ideas on how to fix it. But when you open up your freezer, you may notice that there's a lot of frost and there's a lot of ice everywhere. Maybe the reason this is happening is that the freezer door is not closing all the way and it's letting some warm air get in there that can cause the frost and ice. So that's a good thing to check first, is make sure that the freezer door can close easily, nothing's obstructing it. I'm up here in the fresh food section and I'm just feeling these vents. I can feel cold air coming through these. These are the ones that kind of go through into the door to cool down the water, cool down the ice. But then there's another section down lower in the fridge where cold air is supposed to come through, and that might be getting blocked in this case. This is the circuit board or the controller that a lot of modern refrigerators have that may need to be replaced.
Is helping you, please consider pressing down in the lower right hand corner of your screen the subscribe button, and that really helps us.
We're now on the back of the refrigerator. We pulled it out away from the wall, got it unplugged, and we're taking out these 1/4-inch screws around the perimeter of this lower panel. Some refrigerators, this lower panel is actually made of almost like a cardboard material, and other times it's metal, but it's covering up some really important components that can help you to get your refrigerator working good again. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking out all these screws. I'll take off this panel and I'm going to clean up a part of the refrigerator that's used to dissipate heat. Sometimes it gets a lot of dirt or lint on it, and it makes it really hard for the refrigerator to cool down. It can even cause the refrigerator compressor to overheat, where you might have to replace a part. It's kind of like a fuse. So we're taking off that lower panel now. We're going to take a look in there, see what's going on. Pull that out of the way. The thing in front of me right here is the compressor. That's the thing that's going to compress down. The one I'm pointing at, that's where the heat is dissipated, and that's where you might get a big accumulation of lint and dirt. And you can get rid of this pretty easily just by vacuuming it. You don't have to have a vacuum. You can use a brush to just brush it to loosen up all the dirt. But vacuuming is a lot better to get rid of it. But that's a very common problem when a refrigerator is not cooling well. I'm also going to remove the 1/4-inch screws here above on this one panel, take it off, and that's going to open up and allow me to check the main controller or the brains of the refrigerator. In modern refrigerators, that's used to control things like the cooling, the defrost cycle, the lights, the water dispenser. Pretty much everything is going through this little brain. It's a circuit board, and these circuit boards can get damaged easily, and sometimes the connectors where the wires come in are just loose. So it's good to make sure they're all nice and tight. It's really important to have one of these surge protectors that's used to plug in your refrigerator, because a big surge of electricity can very easily fry one of these boards. They cost about $200, so really important to have a surge protector. I'm just loosening each connector slightly, pulling it a little bit away from the board and then pushing it back in. And this can make some of the problems a refrigerator have go away, because all of a sudden now the circuit board can send its signal out to the component. Sometimes these connections get corroded over time, so just loosening them and then putting them back in can have a pretty good effect. The thing I see most often though is these circuit boards get damaged when there's too much electricity that spikes in from maybe from PG&E or from the power department. So that surge protector will prevent that and maybe save you a couple $100 and keep your refrigerator working well. So we're going to take a look at another part down here. Again, this is the area
Just
that we
pulls in all that
clean.
cold air all the time, but it brings
Good to get
a
in here
little
with the
dust
vacuum
with
and just
it
clean
over
everything.
time.
But
It just
in
gets
particular,
clogged.
this area, because this is where the refrigerator can dissipate its heat. Refrigeration is really where
Oh, it's got a
it's just
hose.
sucking
Cool.
heat out of the food and out of
Nice.
the refrigeration area. So we're
It'll be nice where I can
making
find
sure
one.
that part of the refrigerator is
Yeah, they
Again,
they
you
tend to
vacuum
stray over the time.
just use a brush to clean it. And not all refrigerators have the same type of area that you clean, but you'll notice the area that needs to be cleaned because it'll have a lot of dirt on it. The fan pulls that dirt right in. It just builds up over time. So again, I'm just pulling out a little bit on these connectors and then putting them back in.
A lot of wires, huh?
On the compressor itself,
The
there's
old
a
style
piece
they didn't
called
have
the high
control
limit
boards. They
and
just had-
another
they're
piece
more
called the
just
relay.
analog.
And on some refrigerators, the
Pretty
high
simple.
limit and the relay are kind of
Oh,
built
thanks,
together.
Vic.
But if the compressor gets too hot, it will. Oh, right here, I'm just using the vacuum, the handheld vacuum, to really get that area free of the lids and of the dirt. So pretty easy to do, very important. Maybe every 6 months, preventative work, you can get the whole fridge and do this.
That's a little bit too.
I'm also cleaning these drills here. This is where the air will come through from the back,
Comes in.
and pretty often these get clogged. So you can do both sides. The handheld type vacuums that have the brush attachment are really good for this.
That's really good.
Show a little picture here in a second of what the relay and the high limit look like. Here's the location of where they are on the compressor. And they're actually really easy to remove. You have to take off a few wires and then you can just grab the whole mechanism and pull it to your left and it'll just wiggle right off of 3 posts and then you can put a new one on. Here's what they look like. And there's a capacitor that plugs in, kind of a black rectangle that plugs in to this piece. And those capacitors sometimes also stop working, but usually it's just the high limit inside this thing, which is like a fuse that stops.
Yeah.
But this one right
Oh,
here.
right there? Yeah.
Just cleaning up all these areas will help. Refrigerators do really well when they have good airflow.
Fancy schmancy.
Double checking everything before I put it back together. In this particular refrigerator, the problem was that the cold air just couldn't get into the fresh food section because of some ice that had accumulated. Because instead of having the refrigerator at 38 degrees, they had it down at around 32 degrees, which is where water freezes. And that had built up a big ice block that prevented the air from flowing. So on this refrigerator, to fix it, all we had to do is an old-fashioned defrost, which we'll cover here in a minute. I'm just putting these 1/4-inch screws in to hold that panel back on. That's the one that covers the controller. Controllers are really easy to replace, but usually a refrigerator that isn't working is not due to a bad controller, but it's due to some of these things we've outlined earlier. So we're just putting those 1/4-inch screws back in. I think the most common problem that I see is one that's iced up like this refrigerator, or one where the high limit that plugs into the compressor that we saw earlier has blown and you just have to replace it. They're usually only about 20 bucks from Amazon for the combination of relay and high limit, and it's pretty easy to do. It's just a matter of pulling off the old one and putting in the new one and putting a couple of wires on. So for this refrigerator, once we got it back together, we opened up the freezer door in the fresh food section. We put the food in a cooler, and we left these open for about 8 hours so that all the ice could melt. We set the refrigeration from 32 degrees back to 38 degrees. And then after we plugged it back in, again, about 8 hours to allow all the ice to melt, it did great. The refrigerator, freezer section got cold, and it was able to push the cold air up into the fresh food section, and it's back working great. So you do have to give it about 8 hours for all that ice to melt. And it's back.
Thanks so much for watching our video, and please subscribe to our channel when you get a chance, and also click the little bell notification button so we can send you weekly videos on all the different ways of fixing appliances around your home and saving you lots of money. So thanks again for watching, and please also press the like button for our video if this was helpful to you. Feel free to contact me at the email listed below, which is scottthefixitguy@yahoo.com, with any of your questions. And also, if you need to have a FaceTime meeting with me or a Zoom meeting, you can click on one of the links below in the description, and we can set up a 15-minute or 30-minute video conference where we can work on your appliance problem. So thanks again for all your support and for watching the video.